Now I'm going to demonstrate a little bit coating on unglazed tiles. And first of all, I want to show you a very important thing, and that is that I have several types of photo emulsions here. One, says ready cyanotype for glass and clay. That's one. It's standing on hot water bath. The other one is standard cyanotype solution, which is just on brown glass, and that's it. Now I would like to also prepare one which will be particular for clay, which means for firing. And there are two ways to do that. I can either prepare the recipe as you have it in your pamphlet, in your PDF, and that means that I'm doubling the amount of this one. You see, ferric ammonium citrate is supposed to be, for regular paper use, 50 gram to 250 milliliters. This is ready diluted 50 gram for 250. But instead of doubling it in the mixture, I can also just decide that I'm going to use a different proportion of the A and B solutions. Oh God, this is impossible to open. And the other one is potassium ferricyanide. It's always 40 gram to 250. I'm using a classic formula. That's my way. So if I take one measure of this one, and I put it into this glass, that's one. And now I'm going to take the other one, if I manage to open it, of course. Yes. And instead of taking 1:1, as the recipe says, I will take 2 of this. And this means I'm doubling the amount, okay? And it's not very precise. This cyanotype is tolerating the most of it. So just that you note what you're doing and you'll be fine. So this, what I've done here, is the variation of cyanotype for firing purposes on glass and clay. So instead of measuring a double amount of ferric ammonium citrate, which was supposed to be 95 grams for this one, I'm taking double portion of it, and it's just the same. So now I'm just mixing it. And they say it's good to have it standing for a short while, but I will not. Now here are the brushes I can use for cyanotype, and this one is not good because it has a metal part, but because it's so tiny, I just want to show you what you can do with it. And what you can do is just paint with it. You don't have to coat the whole area. You can make some kind of pattern here on the tile. And as you can see, I have masked it ahead of time. So that's also going to give me some sort of expression. And just to show you the options, you don't have to do everything straightforward. You can do variations of your own. You can paint, you can drip, you can spray, you can do all kinds of things, and it all is going to have an effect. The black spots you're seeing here is mold, which was growing on the emulsion. It doesn't matter, it will not affect anything, it will wash away. So I could have, of course, filtered it away, but I don't care. It really doesn't affect anything. So this is a composition which has double amount of ferric ammonium citrate, and that means that it is intended to be fired on clay. And the firing temperature, we can talk about it later, but the previous tests I've been doing, I have been doing on glazed tiles and fired as overglazed temperatures together with glass. So I've been firing, oh, you see, I even have real bad mold bits there, but it doesn't matter. I don't care. So this was one experiment, and now it's going to dry. And when I'm drying this, I'm drying it upside down, okay? I can also coat on the back side. That's an option, and I would like to try that. So I wet the sponge, the brush first, and then I'm going to pour a little bit of this emulsion here so that I'm getting even absorption into the brush. And this brush doesn't have metal, which is good. And I'm just coating very thin layer. Our purpose is to get as even and as thin layer as I can get. Okay, now I'm going to dry it in the drying cabinet. And the next one, as you can see, I have not masked, so I'm just going to coat it maybe a little better than the previous one, trying to get as even coat as I can, especially in the middle, in the depth of the tile, because it has forms. Okay, we'll see how it turns out. My demonstrations are not perfect, so I'm doing it on purpose because you are going to make all these mistakes and you have to see the results of your mistakes. So I'm just going to make a demonstration of how much of it shows. And I promise you, if you want to have very even and perfect result, you will be able to do that after you have spoiled a few tiles, and you can always wash them and start again. So as you can see, even though it's fired, it's not fired very high, this particular one. So the emulsion is not drying very quickly, but it is absorbing, and when it's absorbed enough, I can turn and perhaps try the other side as well. So I will do that. And because you can see I'm working in full light in the room. I don't care. It doesn't affect anything. In this short time I'm doing this, it will not affect anything. And again, it goes in the cabinet to dry. So I can also just brush like this. Because I can always mask during the exposure. I'll show you how that is done later. I can use Passepartout, I can use small masking devices and so on. So I don't have to mask on the tile if I don't want to. I can do it at a later stage, if you understand what I'm talking about. And this is the double amount of ferric ammonium citrate in this one, because I intend to fire it, and perhaps fire higher than I have fired the previous ones. So you'll see the difference in color and the opportunities I have with this kind of tile. This doesn't have any kind of grounding. This is straightforward emulsion without gelatin and without grounding. The thicker the emulsion, the more difficult it will be to develop it. And the exposure times will increase accordingly to the thickness of the emulsion. It's absorbing inside the tile, so I can't really see what I'm doing. It will only show later on, after I have done my exposures. But with some experience, you will learn how to do it properly. You're learning while you're working with this. And the last one, you have to coat as quickly as possible and as thin as you can. This is not thin, this is more thick than I like, but we'll see how that works. I'm going to show you the results later on. And after all this is done, I just want to coat one more last piece, and that is the glass piece. You can see it has a print under, which I have removed because it was not successful, but there is some shadow and there are some kind of print left. And now I'm going to use this one, which has been standing on hot bath, and I'll show you how I poured it again onto this one. I'm just holding it in my hand, and let's see if I manage to do it nicely. Sometimes it's rejecting the emulsion, and then I have to help it with a brush. Underneath, I can always clean it away. We'll see how this turns out. Doesn't look very beautiful, but the time will show. If it doesn't settle on the plate, I can always help it with a brush. And sometimes wait a bit and just continue. And don't be afraid to mess up. It will come to you. It's a matter of experience, really. And if it's crawling off, I will just allow it to do that and then continue spreading it. As long as everything is warm, it's not cold, so it doesn't coagulate the gelatin or the emulsion. And now you can see it's sitting pretty nicely on the surface. Here maybe lacking a bit, but well, let's say I'm happy with it. And then it goes also into the cabinet to dry. That's it.